Hi folks, I'm Dork and welcome to Inside Spellbreak, the community-led home of all things Spellbreak from news to guides and more. We were recently treated to a Q&A session with the design director Jessie and CEO Seth of Spellbreak, so today we're going to go through the major takeaways from that session. If you come up with any questions of your own during the video, drop them in the comments, and if I cannot answer them myself, I'll see about forwarding them to the Spellbreak team. Before we jump into the Q&A, can I just say that this setup with the devs talking to us freely during even the pre-alpha is exceedingly refreshing. For some reason, many firms believe that they need to appear completely flawless to their prospective community, as if they were completely infallible. What does this do? Well, it largely alienates their fanbase, and while they might come out with a very polished game, we feel no connection to it, nor some of the questionable decisions they might have made. So here we have some devs who are openly talking to us, blundering over unpronounceable names, wondering why Twitch chat keeps asking them for their phone numbers, and talking about all of the stupid bugs the game once and still has. What is the result? I already love the Spellbreak team. They're just as human as you or I, but that makes them relatable, not less professional. And now they've taken the time to explain why they're doing certain things, what they hope to achieve, and are obviously taking interest in what the growing community wants from the game too. Okay, that got a bit ranty, but I had to get it out of my system. The Spellbreak team are doing a wonderful job, so keep it up. Speaking of that, let's get back to the real meat of the video here. What did we learn from the recent Q&A? Well, to keep things simple for everyone, I'm going to separate this video into a few sections, with timestamps below if you want to skip ahead. The questions they got bounced around all over the place, and often referenced earlier ones, so I've compiled and reordered everything for you folks. Let's start with a biggie. How do the Spellbreak devs hope to reach out to more players? The biggest question everyone seems to have is, will Spellbreak be coming out on console? The CEO of Spellbreak, Seth, answered this directly, suggesting, and I quote, that the best opportunities for this game are cross-platform. He went on to discuss that he definitely wanted to work on console release for the game, but that currently they don't have a game to put on those platforms. So for the duration of the pre-alpha and possibly the alpha itself, there will be no console access. However, this is certainly something they want to address. They've even gone as far as to test what the console controls feel like, and it's apparently pretty good. The next big issue with reaching more players are the specs of your computer. Not everyone owns a supercomputer, and optimization is something a lot of people worry about. Believe it or not, despite the warning regarding PC specs when you sign up to the pre-alpha, they are already working on optimization. The issue seems to be that they optimize a part of the game, but then they add in something new, so that has to be optimized as well. By which point there is another new thing, and so on and so forth, you get the picture. They certainly will make a push towards the end of development, but while they're still adding loads of new features, it presents a bit of a problem in terms of optimization. Finally, on this subject, they covered different regions. Currently, players in South America and Asia are struggling with ping. I even saw a poor SEA player on Reddit saying that they love the game and they play it loads, but they actually haven't even landed a single kill yet, and only some of the blame can be put on their skill or lack thereof. The answer was actually that they're already looking to run a test shortly for a South American and Southeast Asian server that will probably last between 1 to 2 days to allow them time to configure it correctly. Then as the game's population increases in those areas, they will turn them on permanently, and our friend from Southeast Asia can finally get a kill. Okay, time for some controversy. Let's talk balance. The elusive mistress of many games, causing headaches ever since they increased the speed of the ball in Pong or introduced the T-shape to Tetris. Balance is something that can make or break a game. Spellbreak has already had its fair share of balance complaints, but the first thing the team brought up that I want to reiterate is that this is a pre-alpha. A lot of the changes they're doing will be huge, and they might seem like they're obviously bad, but they might just be looking to collect data on how it affects a certain thing or behaviour, so that they can adjust something completely different. A lot of the time it's easier for them to make a huge change to adjust a balance issue. That way they have a higher chance of fixing it all in one go, as opposed to making many smaller changes that may or may not work. This is the pre-alpha, so if the huge change doesn't work, they can just revert and try again. This does mean that if you're already on the inside, or looking to be so, you will need to continue to be patient. The good news is that the devs are listening to you, especially in Discord. If you aren't already, download Discord, or just use the web app, you monster, and head over to the official Proletariat Discord, link in the description below, where they listen to all of your suggestions, whether they be balance or anything else. Your voice will actually be heard there. Okay, now with all their answers on the philosophy of balance done, let's take a look at a couple of specific issues raised. Common gauntlets feel drastically less powerful than their higher tier friends. This is something that the team aren't too worried about, as the only real difference is the damage curve. At lower levels, your maximum damage output will actually be similar to the higher rarities, but your minimum will also be much lower, meaning you will need a bit of luck on your side until you find a better gauntlet. Finally, they were asked about the percent-based damage increases, and if they were worried about those. But they said the alternative is a flat-based damage increase, which are drastically better for quick-firing gauntlets. whereas percentage-based ones will surely benefit slow-firing, high-damage gauntlets more, but they'll have a similar DPS effect on low-damage, fast-firing gauntlets too. Leading on quite nicely from balance are the questions around new classes and gauntlets to the game. And while it may have been confirmed already, this is the first time I've seen the Spellbreak team mention on a live stream the rarities of gauntlets. From the least powerful to the most powerful, we have common, uncommon, rare, epic, and legendary. From personal experience alone, my heart sinks when I see this. I suffer from protanopia, a strong type of colourblindness where I can't see the red in most of the worlds. In other, similar games, the biggest issue this persists, outside of my enemies naturally having better camouflage against me, is with item rarity. Uncommon and legendary typically look the same, as do rare and epic. I actually meant to ask them a question based on colourblindness myself, but I was busy taking these notes for you guys and it's the pre-alpha, so it's probably some ways off even if they were going to include it. Either way, I certainly hope we do get some sort of colourblind mode, or at least icons for each rarity to help us distinguish which is what type. Okay, round 3 of the video over, let's look at what they said about adding new gauntlets. Unfortunately, a new gauntlet for a completely different element would take a whole lot of work. From spell design and animation, through to balance and how their spells interact with existing ones. This will take a considerable amount of time. They definitely would like to add new ones, but instead suggest that one idea would be to take existing spells and put them into a gauntlet. Perhaps taking a spell from a different gauntlet, mixing it together to make something that better represents a particular class. Speaking of classes, they are 100% adding more of those. They even somewhat leaked that we'll be seeing a couple of support-based classes for squads and duos, and stealth-based class coming pretty soon. Another big topic that a lot of people have been discussing quite openly is other game modes. Currently Spellbreak is a battle royale, but that isn't the thing that people have been largely attracted to. We're here for some epic battle mage combat. Seth actually said this is how it started too. Spellbreak was actually a team deathmatch game right at the beginning. Of course, the real reason for that was so that it could properly test the combat, as it allowed them to always be fighting. And while it doesn't mean that team deathmatch will definitely come back, it does mean that other game modes are certainly viable. The main reason for it being a battle royale right now though, is to promote its RPG elements. They found that BR was the best game mode to let them test out their item acquisitioning and leveling systems. And when they're happy with those systems, they can start to explore other game modes with a stronger foundation behind them. Seth himself seemed pretty excited about the possibility of a grand PvP style mode, which he likened to Battlefront 2 where you have 30 plus people on either side, and as you battle you get points towards unlocking new items and powers for your classes, instead of getting to play as a Jedi, which is possibly the only thing I would rather be than a battle mage. Sorry Seth. As someone who spent a lot of time in Realm v Realm, or in Guild Wars, it's known as World v World, I would very much welcome the grand scale PvP action. We would roam the battlefields with our 20-30 man squads, and over the course of time became a little family of our own. I'd love to be able to replicate that inside Spellbreak's epic combat system. So aside from new classes, gauntlets and game modes, what other content is the Spellbreak team working on? Well, as we're all feeling the holiday spirit currently, they were asked about seasonal events. They definitely want to work on some seasonal events, such as you see in other games. And they even mused over an in-game holiday events that are tied to Spellbreak lore instead of the real world, but I think they were just having fun with the idea by that point. The team also discussed the practice area, which currently is pretty bare bones, but in the not too distant future it will get expanded upon so that you can use abilities, level up abilities, reset abilities, even change classes and more. They want to develop more and more with extra tutorials and anything else they can think of moving forward, as they understand the depth of Spellbreak as a game necessitates a really strong practice area. The next big topic that was brought up regarding content was the map. It is currently pretty sweet, but they want to do more. The swamp and arid biomes were recently added, as well as some changes to make different forest biomes actually feel different. They do want to continue working on the map though, and especially developing their points of interest so they aren't all the castle. They would love to add villages and houses and other points of interest to their map, and they're actually recruiting another environment or level designer to help with this work. So if you folks know anyone who fits the bill, tell them to get in contact with the Spellbreak team. A question of destructible environments was also brought up, which they loved the idea of, but an entirely destructible map just wouldn't happen with the tech restraints. Some elements such as crates or even wooden structures that could be destroyed though, that they would definitely consider. So that about sums up the main sections of questions that were covered. But we're now left with a bunch of miscellaneous bits to look at. The NDA was mentioned a fair amount, as we're certainly not the only content creators out there excited about this game. Jessie mentioned that it would be hopefully dropping soon, but Seth said that it would definitely not be until 2019. When it drops, go nuts. They want content creators on YouTube, Twitch and everything in between, and they want to help us out as much as possible too. They already provide assets wherever they can for creators, but they've said if there's anything else we might need, just ask and they'll see what they can do. As for a date, they said that there will be a lot more information on the NDA drop coming in January, and when we get that, you can bet your bottom dollar we will be letting you know about it, so long as the NDA information itself isn't under its own NDA. Aside from NDA Inception, they also explained a little about the monetization and cosmetics of the game, or rather the lack thereof currently. They've thought about how to monetize, but they don't really have a concrete plan yet. They seem to be very keen on keeping it away from pay to win though, which is very good for everyone. As far as cosmetics, there used to be a number of character skins, but apparently they've gone. There was an earlier build that allowed you to swap to different models, but that didn't give you much creative freedom. It sounds like they're taking some time to take this apart so you can customize your character a lot more, which I am a huge fan of them doing. Just like the news, we'll end on a fun point. Jessie's hair looked fabulous. Okay, while that is true, it isn't my final point. They were asked about their favourite bugs of all time during development. Seth answered the question with 2 bugs. The first was the ability to jump incredibly high by bugging an amulet with a wind ability. But that was so cool, the devs put it in the game as a feature. Of course, they balanced it a bit first, but that's a really cool way to add an ability. Secondly, it was a bug that allowed down players in duos and squads to actually perform the res or execute action, meaning that even if you were downed, you could still finish off an enemy, or you could even res your also downed buddy. That about covers 99% of what was said in the QA, and if this type of content was useful to you guys, let me know and I'll make sure to cover future long Q&A streams for you. As always, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the content, feel free to like and subscribe as it really helps the channel out. Or, as we're relatively new here, go check us out on Twitter so you never miss another video. I've been Divok of Inside Spellbreak, and I will see you next time.